Welcome to Rethinking Humanity Interviews. I'm Lacey Delane.
Hi, I'm Sonya Larrea.
And happy Valentine's Day, everybody!
Yeah. Happy Valentine's
It's the
Day. How do you do the heart there, Lacey?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Look at this. Victor has a little surprise for us.
Oh.
Slap you in the face with
So
love.
Cute.
I know, it's great. Yeah, it's kind of a special day. Honestly, I'm not a big Valentine's person or holidays person, but it's fun for content, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Of course, our theme, guys, this month is love. And today we have Vivica Volt of the Fun Time program. We're going to bring her in just a little bit to talk to you about love and a different approach to relationships, which I think is fascinating. I'm really excited to make the connection between these ideas and the philosophy behind them. And Sonya, I think this is something that you're excited to learn more about.
Yeah, I am. I'm kind of the person that doesn't know anything here. So I'm going to be asking Vivica all sorts of questions. Learning. Yeah. I'm a learning person. So for anybody out there that has no clue, yeah, I'm that one.
I know just a little bit, but we'll get into that more. How are you, Sonya? We're not in the same city right now, so I haven't seen you.
No, you're in the warm weather. Here, yay, Atlanta. It's cool, rainy, but it's all good. Went and had a coffee. Hitting all the coffee places here. I know you've got your special place that you go to. Went to a dog park. Early this morning, so that was fun.
That's fun.
Yeah, seeing all the animals. You watch them run around and you're like, I want to be like them, just free-spirited, They're just hanging, and us humans, we take everything so seriously. So we have to lighten it up, the mood here.
Yeah. Were there any dogs there, like specific breeds that you saw?
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of, there's the doodles, there's the little ones, the, labs. It's fun to watch them. I mean, they are in the moment, right? They're just going, they're playing. It brings a smile to your face to see those puppies.
Yeah, well, it's like they're just living in the being mode of existence.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yes. I actually did an interview yesterday with Joshua of the New Progressive Voice. It's going to come out later this week, but we talked a lot about the being mode of existence, and we were talking about being present in the moment. And so that reminds me of that. That's dogs. They don't, it's natural.
I know, and they have fun, and what makes me think, if there's music, the dogs run around. If there's, they don't care how they look. They're not checking themselves out in the mirror.
Yes.
They're just playing. They're playing, and so we could learn from them. Yeah,
for sure. Yes, I love dogs. I don't know if I want one, but I definitely think they're precious.
They're fun.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I'm as some of you know, I'm in Guatemala, super enjoying my time here. I used to live here, and it's really warm here right now. And honestly, I was like, I'm just gonna be a snowbird right now and go down where it's warmer away and focus on building the podcast even more. And so that's been great. And if you want to hear more about that, we started a new little spinoff called Rethinking Humanity Travel Chronicles. And we've done a couple of episodes already. So check that out if you want to hear more about what's going on here. In the last episode, talked a little bit about the dark side of Guatemala, which is interesting. Of course, obviously no culture is perfect. I love this place because of the sunshine and the mountains, but there's definitely things that are not the greatest about it. And also I talk a little bit about how they're handling COVID, which is surprisingly good, actually. Wow. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's wonderful. Yeah. All right, Sonya, we have a video of Sonya that's special.
Okay.
That we can show you.
Okay. I got to see this.
Are you ready?
All right. I'm ready.
Nice. I know. Are you mad about something? Get that aggression out. Yeah, look at that. See how fun that is?
I could just keep doing it.
I know. And then if you get some music on.
Oh, yeah, you could just be partying.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm impressed. That was the first time to let everybody know that I did that. That was the first time, and I did okay.
Yeah, what did you think? I mean, what were your thoughts on the quiet punch?
No, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I kept thinking it was going to be like a ball, like not the square. For some reason in my head, when you think of a typical punching ball, and
Right.
no, it was a blast. So I say everybody check it out. Yeah,
I brought it with me to Guatemala.
And you start, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Sonya. You guys, I'm sorry if I'm stepping over you
I was
there.
just saying. No. I was just saying you definitely feel your heart going up, and you feel like you're getting a workout, like in the first 30 seconds there.
It's amazing how much punching, boxing, kickboxing is a workout. It doesn't take long, and you're like, your heart rate's up, and you're burning calories, and you feel really good too.
It's cool because it's portable. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I brought it down here with me. So if you're interested, check it out. Quietpunch.com. Use the code RethinkingHumanity at checkout. You get 10% off, and we receive some support from that too. So that's awesome. Check that out. And apologies. The last couple of episodes, I feel like the Wi-Fi hasn't been as good as it has been down here. So like if I'm speaking over anybody today, it's not because I'm rude, because of the Wi-Fi. Okay. Yes. Sonya, what else before we bring in Vivica? We have something big coming.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Got to tell everybody without giving this away. Mark on your calendars, April 3rd. It will be a day to remember. We are beyond excited. That show's going to be off the charts. So I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Put it on the calendar. Rethinking Humanity, April 3rd.
Yes. We've left some clues on our Instagram at Rethinking Humanity to let you know what's going on, and we'll give you more clues as we get closer to April 3rd. But follow us on Instagram, Twitter as well. If you have feedback, RethinkingHumanityPodcast at Gmail. We'd love to hear from you. So it is time for us to get to the content for today. I want to bring in Vivica Volt, the co-host of the Fun Time program.
Woo!
Welcome.
Hello. Welcome.
How are you this morning?
I am lovely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yay. We're excited to have you.
Oh my God. I feel like we're going to have such a great conversation.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about all kinds of great things.
Yeah. For our people that don't know, tell us about your podcast.
So the Fun Time program is a podcast where we talk about all kinds of fun things that interest us. So my co-host, John Andrew Fredrickson, and I talk about race, we talk about politics, we talk about sex, we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about current events, anything that we find interesting in the moment. We'll either have special guests on who are experts in the field, or we'll do deep dives ourselves and look into topics that, again, just really fascinate us. We just recently had an astrophysicist on to talk about the different the different Mars landings and that are happening this month. So there's like the China landing. There's the I want to say the ESA is landing a rover. There's all these cool like lander missions that are happening. So we were able to talk to her about that. So we talk about everything. Wow. So come check us out, the Fun Time program.
Yeah, I've seen it. You cover a wide range of topics, which is awesome.
Yeah, I love that. It's awesome.
We had Lacey on a couple months ago talking about UBI and Yang Gang.
Good stuff. But I'm always fascinated when I listen to the podcast because I'm like, wow. I mean, the depth that you guys go into with certain of your podcasts, and then the variety of content is amazing. I love it. I love it.
Basically, John and I are just ADHD as shit, and we both have a wide variety of interests and wide variety of topics that we want to talk about. So we couldn't just figure out a way to narrow it down to just like one thing or two things. So we were like, fuck it. Let's take the Radio Lab approach and talk about everything. But as we do so, we make sure that we are talking about it from an informed point of view. and that we give as much information around the topic as we can.
Yeah. Well, and part of the reason why we wanted you to come on is I listened to one of your episodes, the one on kink, which was one of the ones you were talking about, a deep dive.
Yes.
This is so interesting, and it's so approachable. It's so easy to understand. I think there's a lot of stigma around talking about sex and sexual things. And so I think it's good for us to remove that, and by doing it. And I think you did a really great job of that with your podcast. And so that was part of why we were like, let's have Vivica on,
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. The kink episode is a personal baby of mine. That was like one of the ones that I insisted we do. And it was my birthday episode. So I was like extra all about it. And really, that was just me talking off the cuff about one of my favorite topics. So that one was personal to my heart.
Well, I'm excited you're here. So I am a person who's kind of clueless. I didn't listen to the kink episode, which I'm going to go back and listen to.
Perfect.
But I want to start the program by asking you, Vivica, to define, I guess, for our listeners and for me, polyamory, and sort of looking at sexuality in a different way, and just, take it away from there and inform the uninformed. There are other people who probably know what we're talking about, but that'd be great if you could start from the 101.
Absolutely. Okay, so the 101 is actually not polyamory. It's ethical non-monogamy. Okay. And that's a term that not a lot of people know, but you can pretty much figure out what we're talking about when we say ethical non-monogamy. And that's the umbrella term that covers all different forms of open relationships, because not all open relationships fall under the category of polyamory, but all open relationships fall under the category of ethical non-monogamy if you're trying to do it right.
Okay.
So that's a restart. And ethical non-monogamy is really just looking at a relationship and saying, I want to be with more than one person. How can I do this in a way that is not going to hurt the other people that I'm interacting with, right? Polyamory takes that and says, I want to have relationships with multiple people. And that could be, I want to have multiple romantic relationships. So that's where you get the poly and the amorous, so multiple loves. Or you can have multiple sexual relationships, but be emotionally monogamous with someone. So being emotionally monogamous is saying, all right, I'm putting my emotional investment and I'm being vulnerable with this one person, but I'm being sexually open and sexually available for other people. So that's also technically considered polyamory as well. But it's really finding a balance of what works for each individual person that's engaging in ethical non-monogamy.
This sounds a little bit to me like destroying the idea that one person can fulfill all of another person's needs and should and has to. I think speaking a little bit to maybe why ethical non-monogamy, I think could help some of our listeners too. So let's jump into that a little bit too.
Oh, 1,000%. So the why of ethical non-monogamy, I know that like society tells us that you have that one soulmate, that one person that you are going to be destined to spend the rest of your life with, right? Well, fuck that. That is so difficult to find. And on top of that, it's so difficult to find someone that you can actually put all of your eggs in that one basket without ending up with a spoiled omelet, right? So you want a situation where all of your needs are being met, but finding one person to meet every single one of those needs is so fucking difficult. You might as well just go out and climb a mountain for funsies. Like they're huge mountains to cross, right? But the same way that we have multiple friends and multiple friends of ours fit into different places in our lives, why can't we have multiple relationships that are romantic relationships that fulfill different needs in our lives, right? So for me personally, I've been polyamorous for about 7 years now. And actually probably more, probably closer to like 8 or 9, but we'll say 7 just as like as a baseline. So 7 years, I've for sure been polyamorous. And the way that it's changed things for me, because I grew up as like, I'm going to be monogamous. I'm going to find the one guy that I'm going to marry, and we're going to have kids, and we're going to have a white picket fence and maybe a dog, maybe a cat. Like, we're going to live in suburbia. It's going to be amazing, right? Like, that was the vision that I grew up with. But I knew that I was bisexual from a young age. And growing up knowing that I was bisexual, I was trying to find ways to go around that. Like, okay, well, I want to have sex with women, but I don't want to cheat because I don't want to be like a shitty partner. So maybe I can find a guy who's willing to have threesomes, right? But then as I got older, I realized that, oh shit, I can just date these women and date these men as long as I let them know ahead of time that's what I'm doing. And then it takes the pressure off, because let's say I want to have a partner who plays video games with me all day and goes on adventures with me and is willing to bike with me and like wants to go hiking with me, but also wants to hang out and watch movies. That's really difficult to find someone who's going to encapsulate all of those different facets of me. And I recognize that. So instead, I can have one partner who loves video games, one partner who loves hiking, one partner who loves biking, and I can do all of those things and enjoy my time with each of those individual people and spread my needs out to different people, so no one feels weighted down by my needs, and I don't feel weighted down by anyone else's needs, but I can support and uplift them in my presence and with my attention and time.
Interesting. You know, I first started to become open to this idea and to think about it as, you know, like an option and something that, and realizing that it's a, you know, an alternative way to do relationships after I read a book called Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan. The book talks about basically how we're not naturally monogamous as a species. And he uses a lot of research and talks a lot about, you know, life during hunter-gatherer societies and how things were very egalitarian. There was no context for property at that point.
Right.
So it wasn't like someone would be thought of as like, that's my husband or my boyfriend or, you know, the person, I'm only having sex with this person. And so even to the point of like, he says in there that they used to believe that if you wanted to have like, they believed in like collective, how does that, I don't know what the phrase is, but basically if you wanted a kid that was smart and strong.
Collective child rearing?
Do what?
Like collective child rearing or community child rearing?
Well, that, but what I'm saying is the woman has sex with the guy that's really smart and the guy that is really muscular and blah, 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 if she wants all those. So it's like a collective, it's the collection of the semen that makes the child, basically. That's what they thought in some of these older pre-agricultural societies.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because the human species isn't naturally monogamous. We didn't evolve to be monogamous. We actually evolved to be polyamorous, because being in a community, when we were in the hunter-gatherer societies that you just mentioned, it made sense for the communities to raise a child. So it didn't matter who that child's father was. We knew who the child's mother was because the child came out of her, but it didn't matter who the father was because everyone in the community raised all of the kids together. So there was no possession. Possession only came about when women were being sold through marriage. And marriage came about as a business deal. And women were part of the property. That's where they came with the dowry, right? So it was a business exchange. And that's where monogamy came from, that original business exchange, which came, again, from capitalism and a lot from patriarchy. So you have a system that wasn't designed around any sort of natural evolution of our species, but it's being forced upon us. And society has forced that even more because, of course, in order to make a marriage worth anything, to make the dowry worth anything, to make this whole ceremony worth anything, the entire society has to feed back into that and say, oh, okay, this is a tradition we're going to keep up because it benefits all of us. Right? So now, present day, we find that system isn't benefiting us anymore. That system benefits a minority at this point. And most people find themselves quite unhappy in monogamy, but they don't really know why. And they find themselves cheating more often than they would like to. They find themselves wishing that like maybe things had been different, and maybe if I had just like gone out with that guy in high school, or maybe if I just called that girl one last time, and you know, I think that one like barista was flirting with me, and maybe I should give her my number, and you know, I just want to feel sexy again. I want to feel valued again. And because you fall into these ruts and these patterns with long-term partners, you lose out on that new relationship energy, that like honeymoon feeling, and you start feeling unfulfilled. And if there's not a proper amount of communication within the relationship, a relationship can wither and die from a lack of communication. And then you have these partners who are saying, well, I'm determined to make this a long-term thing. I'm determined to be in this for the long haul. There's kids involved. There's a ring involved. There's whatever involved. But at the end of the day, my needs aren't being met. I'm not being fulfilled. I don't know how I can possibly be a good partner to you because I'm not having my needs met, and I'm stuck. And that stuck feeling leads to, oh, well, you know, my coworker, she looks so cute, and she looks so happy and free, and she's always flirting with me, and you know, she just makes me feel young again. And next thing you know, you have this disastrous divorce that was caused by an infidelity that could have easily been solved by talking to your partner about your needs not being met.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely, I got to jump in here. I love what you're saying. Let me tell you what I
I
definitely agree that, oh, we all froze, I think. I was saying that the whole idea of the marriage white picket fence is bullshit. Yeah. And the sad part about this, okay, so everything you say, I agree with. This idea that the one person you're going to find is going to fulfill you. No, that's completely wrong too. Unfortunately, it's a narrative that's been sold through media, through TV, through literature, and even within families, even through a religion. And that's kind of where I'm thinking, is that you get that challenge when you're stepping out of the box and trying to live differently. Then you need a society that's going to support that. For instance, you're talking about the collective. Lacey brought it up. You did. I mean, you do need a village to raise a child. So the idea that you're going to have multiple people around is awesome.
Yes.
What I'd like to drill down a little more to when I think about this is also trust. Having partners that you could trust, and also sort of having a person, and listening to you talk, Vivica, I see someone who's kind of evolved, where some of us, some people out there, I'm not going to name names, but just they're not evolved. So my fear would be, how are they going to behave in these environments? Do you see what I'm saying? Like maybe it looks good on paper, but they go out there and they do bad stuff or whatever.
Yes.
I have to go back to Vivica's examples because I love them, of being like at the Starbucks or at I don't know, some random place, and I'm just gonna throw the guys under the bus for a minute. The minute
oh no! Right as she throws the men under the bus,
she wants a tip.
It's coming back.
Are
Wait.
you stupid?
Start over.
I said the minute the guys, and I have done experiments with this with all age groups, by the way, they could be old, young. The minute a woman pays attention to them, and I mean, it just be the waitress just, being nice. The guy thinks she wants me, or, I can hook up with her. I'm like, what the?
She's available to me.
Exactly. Just exactly what you're saying. Any little like wink, nod, they take it to the bank. It's hysterical.
Yeah. Well, I think that also feeds back into the toxic masculinity and toxic rape culture that is also fed to us through the narrative of the media, right? So the narrative of the media is a woman wants to say yes, but doesn't. So she'll just keep saying no until you pester her. Look at The Notebook, which is lauded as one of the greatest love stories of all time. That motherfucker stalked the hell out of that woman to death. He literally stalked her to the fucking grave. Like, that shit is creepy as fuck. And that's lauded as one of the like most romantic movies. And oh my God, he was willing to do anything for her. She said no to him every day for a fucking year. And he was like, nah, I'm not taking that no. Nah, I'm not taking that no. I'm gonna keep showing up. And so finally she was like, fine, I'll say yes if you just go the fuck away. And next thing you know, he never went the fuck away. So this woman was never able to have a single moment of peace for the rest of her life because this dude stalked her to the grave. But that's the romance that we're sold. That's the love story that we're supposed to aspire to. And that's disgusting to me. That's unhealthy to me. That's codependency. And there's absolutely bad actors in the ethical non-monogamy world. And I'm not saying that just because you engage in ethical non-monogamy that you're perfect or that you're above like anything. You haven't. It's just a matter of deciding that monogamy doesn't work for me and I don't want to continue hurting other people. And
that's a smart thing to say.
Yeah. Takes self-awareness to figure that out and maturity too.
Right.
What about 50 Shades of Grey?
Oh, fuck 50 Shades of Grey. That is literally one of the worst examples of BDSM that is in the narrative. Everything about their relationship, Christian Grey is an abuser. A fucking abuser. Through and through. Any professional dominatrix, anyone who has spent any time in the BDSM community will tell you that is a terrible example of BDSM and is 100% an example of an abusive relationship, but also an overly controlling relationship.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, controlling as hell, man.
No part of her interaction with him could be consensual because she did not have the information to have informed consent. So when she was signing that document of saying, I am signing away my rights to say no, and I'm agreeing to all of these things, this contract that she was signing, she was a virgin as she signed it. So she had no context to say, I'm willing to do anal because she's never done anal. I'm willing to be tied up. How does she know she likes that if she's never tried it, if she's never done it in a healthy environment? She has no idea she likes this. So how can she give consent for something she doesn't even know if she likes it? She could be tied up and immediately have a panic attack, but because she signed this fucking contract, she can't say no now. She can't call a safe word. That's abuse. That is abuse. I fucking hate 50 Shades of Grey, and I could go on an entire rant about it. So I will absolutely end that rant here. But like, no, fuck that.
To your point, the reason I bring that up is that I remember when it came out, it was a phenomena, and I read a lot, and the first 10 pages, like, this is trash, this is horrible. But what I found interesting, what did women pull from that? They're thinking it's like about their sexuality. It's not, like you said, it's about power. But then they made a movie about this older group of women who they do a book club. And they're reading 50 Shades of Grey. And it's like, ooh, they're like opening their minds. I'm like, this is horrible, horrible, horrible. Because all across the spectrum, the message is bad.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I'm glad that you validated that for me.
It's so bad. And also, it's really unfortunate because that shows how many people, and women specifically, how many women specifically want to get into BDSM. They want to get into kink. They want to learn more about it. But because our society shames them for having any interest or having any agency in their sexuality whatsoever, they have to resort to romance novels. They have to resort to things that are societally acceptable. And 50 Shades of Grey was societally acceptable because the men liked it enough to allow the women to like it. And it's because it allowed the men to continue their abuse, to continue their control, and to point at that and say, oh, you want a contract just like Dorian Gray or Christian Grey? Fuck yeah. I'm absolutely going to write shit into this contract that you're not going to like later, but you're going to say yes now because you don't know better. And that's also where it comes back to, if you're going to engage in, and I know this is completely a side tangent, but if you're going to engage in BDSM, if you're going to engage in kink, you really want to do so having done the research and having done any sort of like preliminary looking into it to make sure that you know what your boundaries are, that you are practiced at saying no, and that you feel safe with the person that you're playing with and know that they are going to respect your no matter when you say it.
Yes. This is a big,
Sorry, I just had to go on that like huge tangent.
Thank you.
This needs to be said.
Yes. We're so here for this, dude. This is actually something that in our initial conversation, Vivica, really stood out to me, because I think folks who hear the podcast regularly know how much I advocate for self-awareness and effective communication and how important that is. And what you're saying right now is, hey, 50 Shades of Grey is some BS, because there was none of that. There was no communication. There's no respect. There's no ability for the female to say no. And so what I love about doing this in a healthy way, from what I've learned from you, is that actually it takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of effective communication, which newsflash, that's pretty damn healthy. And, I think I'd love for you to speak to that, and then maybe afterwards speak to the fact that maybe that doesn't happen nearly as much in a monogamous relationship as it does in polyamorous or ethical non-monogamy.
Oh, 1,000%. Communication was going to be my very next tirade, because there is nothing more nothing more important in a relationship than communication. And one of the things that being polyamorous has taught me is not only the importance of communication, but the type of communication that needs to be had. Because you can talk to your partner about shallow, surface level things every fucking day and not have your needs be met. It's a matter of being able to have uncomfortable conversations and come out of it with a mutual understanding of how you're going to move forward, right? So it shouldn't just be, I'm going to talk at you, I'm going to talk at you, I'm going to talk at you, and then it's in one ear, out the other, and nothing changes, right? You want to be able to say, hey, something isn't quite right. I'm feeling insecure in our relationship. I feel like my needs aren't being met here. I feel like I'm struggling. I need your help. Can you sit down with me? Can we talk about this? Can we find a solution to this together? Right. And in a lot of monogamous relationships, there are a lot of assumptions being made. There are a lot of unspoken rules that people feel like they need to adhere to. One of the first being, well, if we start sleeping together, that automatically means that we're exclusive, and that automatically means that we're a thing. Even before that's discussed, even before that's put on the table, that's already an assumption within monogamy. And I think that being polyamorous has showed me how to have these communications in a way, how to be have radical candor, how to put myself aside and say, okay, right now I'm really fucking angry. I'm going to say shit I don't want to say right now. Let me take a step back. Let me take a couple days to breathe. Let me address this in a healthy way. Let me do the soul searching I need to do to address the problem in a way that's going to allow for the outcome that I want, instead of starting another fight. And to have a partner who's willing to listen and to be able to have that same level of communication, be willing to have that same level of respect, to sit at the table and say, fuck, this is not easy right now. And I'm really fucking mad at you. I'm really fucking upset with you right now. But okay, how can we fix this? And how can we move forward? And how can we keep this from becoming a larger issue? And I think that because I have to have that conversation with so many people all at once, not only to make sure that my other partners are okay with our personal relationship, but are okay with the relationships that I have with other people as well, and make sure that I'm not talking about my other partners too much around them, or I'm not spending too much time with my other partners and neglecting someone, to continue to check in with all of my different partners and to make sure that their needs are being met as much as I can meet those needs, and to make sure that every part of my needs in the relationship are being met so that I don't feel insecure and they don't feel insecure. Having that conversation over and over again all the fucking time has given me the practice to be able to have that conversation with people who I'm not dating, to have that conversation with friends, to have that conversation with coworkers, to be able to have that open communication to say, I don't have time to bullshit you. Here's what's going on. Here's where I think we need to work on things. Here's how I think we can move forward. Here's how I want to approach this. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to collaborate on this decision together. I want to be able to move forward on this together. How can we do this, right? So yeah, I think being able to have those conversations and have the practice of having those conversations over and over again is the main benefit that I've personally seen from polyamory, especially because I've been able to, again, practice. And I've fucked up plenty of times. I'm nowhere near perfect. I've said shit that I don't want to say. I've been jealous. I've come out of my face and like done shit that I absolutely regretted later and had to apologize for later and had to reevaluate where my place was in a relationship. And being able to have that self-evaluation has been so invaluable to me moving forward, that it has been able to be the first marker of whether or not a relationship is going to be healthy moving forward, is if we can maintain that level of communication.
So let me ask you, love the communication part. Obviously, that's important for any relationship. Going into a polyamorous relationship, do you sit down, set boundaries? What's the process to getting there? Just, again, you meet someone, or how do you get from point A to B?
So are you asking, how do you start a polyamorous relationship from a relationship that's already established? Or are you asking, how do you start a relationship from zero to polyamory?
Oh, probably the first question. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you open up an already established monogamous relationship?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the first thing that I would do is I would recommend the gold standard book of non-monogamy, and it's called The Ethical Slut.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
I think we have possibly a picture of it.
Mm-hmm. I think, yes, we do. Oh,
okay. So this is Insecure in Love. I absolutely recommend this as like one of the secondary things that you should read. Insecure in Love is really great about helping you decide, like helping you address your own insecurities and jealousies. Cool. The Ethical Slut is phenomenal talking about polyamory, open relationships, and all the different type of relationship styles that you're going to come across, and how to handle different hiccups that you're going to come across as you're opening these relationships, different things that you should be considering before you open a relationship, things that you should be considering as you're opening relationships, and things like different ways that you can talk to your partner and address things with your partner in a way that feels open and not attacking or not pushing any agenda one way or another, just kind of researching it and seeing, is this actually right for us, right? And also deciding why you're opening the relationship in the first place is a really great way of easing yourself into it. Are you opening the relationship because you think that's going to save the relationship? Because I can tell you it's not. Okay. If you're opening the relationship to save a relationship, you need to end that relationship. Because opening the relationship, unless both partners are 100% gung-ho and have been wanting this for a while and haven't been able to address it, and they've both been simmering on this, which is in the 1% of relationships, right? Like, that's really rare that both partners actually want to open a relationship. It's usually one partner wants to open the relationship because they feel like their needs aren't being fulfilled, and the other partner really doesn't. And if that's the case,
yeah, that's it. But the books seem that they would be awesome to read no matter where you're at because of the topics they're addressing, like the communication, the love and sex and all of that. I think would be really important.
Yes. So the ethical slut is fantastic. Even if you aren't going to open your relationship, even if you decide, you know what, fuck this isn't for me, right? It really talks about the benefits of monogamy versus the benefits of ethical non-monogamy, right? Because there are benefits to both. And some people genuinely do better in monogamy. And I'm not saying that ethical non-monogamy should be the standard across the board, right? Yeah. Some people genuinely are monogamous and are very, very happy in their monogamy.
Right.
If you are one of those people, fuck yeah, more power to you. Exactly. And I am so excited for you.
Yes.
You should still read The Ethical Slut.
Yeah, I want to read it. I want to read it. You got me. Hello.
It's fucking amazing. And also another really great book that I would absolutely recommend if you're looking to open your relationship or even just considering if this might be right for you is a book called More Than Two. And it also talks about, there we go, More Than Two, a practical guide to ethical polyamory.
You're awesome, Victor.
Thank you, Victor. So yeah, it's fantastic because again, it shows the benefits of polyamory, but again, talks about those hiccups, talks about the pitfalls, talks about the things that you're going to have to look out for if you're trying to open a relationship, and also just if this is the right path for you. It gives you a lot of information that you need to say, oh, maybe this is something that I could dabble my feet in. I might be able to stick my pinky toe in. Like maybe the water is fine. And it shows you that polyamory in general gets a bad rep, and a lot of people misunderstand polyamory as polygamy. And I think that we might need to have a quick
do it
definition.
define,
please. Yeah.
So the difference between polyamory and polygamy is one person having a harem of people.
And that one person is usually a guy, right?
Usually, not always, but usually,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's one person having a harem of other humans, usually of the opposite sex. Usually it's usually a heteronormative situation, so it doesn't usually allow for a lot of gender diversity, which, if it's going to be transphobic, then maybe it's not great. But that's divergence, because you can absolutely have polygamy and have it be gender inclusive, but I just haven't really seen too many examples, Utah. Then you have polyamory, which says, I am going to date multiple other people, and I am very open to you also dating other people, and I encourage you to date other people and see other people, and we can touch base as to whether or not our extraneous relationships are putting a strain on our personal relationship, but otherwise, I expect that you are going to have relationships outside of me. I want you to have relationships outside of me because I'm going to be doing the same.
So I want to touch on this and touch on the philosophy of this a little bit, or kind of the theme of our podcast, because I think, we talk a lot about how important it is to have community, and how limited we are really with our interactions, and how limited our culture and society has caused us to be with regards to these types of interactions. And so I think I really like the idea that we are respecting each other in a situation like this and saying, I want what's best for you. If you want to be with someone else, be with somebody else. And that doesn't mean that I'm not good enough or I'm rejected or whatever. It just means that, we all are different and we have different interests and needs, and human beings, we love variety. And I think that, we need community and variety. Yeah. And so I think this is an example of a way that we can have that. it's another way that we can do that. And I think it also points to kind of, how we lived previous to agriculture and property and all that.
Absolutely. It's actually funny that you mentioned community, because I have found such a home in the sex positive community. And the sex positive community includes people who are into kink, people who are into BDSM, people who are polyamorous, people who are LGBTQ. It includes the wide spectrum of people, and it's people who are saying, I'm not going to shame you for talking about sex. I'm not going to shame you for having sex. I'm not going to shame you for sex work. I'm going to uplift you and encourage you and respect your decisions, as long as you're being safe and ethical in those decisions. And having that community behind me to say, hey, yeah, we're all polyamorous, but this behavior is still fucked up, is really fucking great, because it tells you, it keeps you humble, it keeps you on the right track. It also allows you to grow and allows you to feel respected and feel uplifted within your community, right? And feel supported, really. And having that support of like-minded people who are encouraging you, uplifting you, supporting you, and wanting you to be your best self, and able to educate you and mentor you and tell you, hey, when I was your age and I was polyamorous and I was doing this, I was dating a bunch of people, and here's where I fucked up. And, if you see this coming, watch out for this red flag. And, if you date this one guy is kind of trash, watch out for this, right? Like, you have this accountability within the community that's kind of built in, because we all have the same goal, which is, as a community, we want to respect, uplift, and support each other. Yeah. So it makes it a lot easier to see the bad apples, because if that is our goal, the bad apples aren't going to be meeting those goals, right? But also, being polyamorous, I can say, okay, well, I'm in these 3 very healthy relationships, but this 1/4 relationship is taking up all of my emotional and mental space. It's draining me. It's making me unhappy. I'm constantly crying. I'm constantly in emotional turmoil. But what's the difference between this relationship and these other 3 relationships that are just fine, that have been just fine for years, right? So you start to see when a relationship is unhealthy, when a relationship is toxic, and it makes it a lot easier to cut and run, because you don't have that inherent loneliness drop. Because you have other partners that you can go cuddle with, that you can go talk to, that you can cry with and be vulnerable with, and have that support of people that care and care about you and love you.
I have a practical question. Just when you mention it, okay, I'd like to know how long you've been involved in polyamory in those relationships. And the example you just gave, say you're in 4 relationships, 3 are strong, 1 you have issues with. Would that be a circumstance where you speak with all of your partners to discuss that? Or is that a private thing between you and the one person you're having issues with?
So it depends on the issue. It depends on your relationship with each individual partner, and what your boundaries around talking about other relationships are. Because some partners might say, hey, it's really emotionally taxing for me to discuss other relationships with you. I would really prefer if we just don't talk about other relationships. I know you have them. I encourage you to keep having them. I'm not upset that you have them. I just would prefer not to talk about them. But there's other relationships where, okay, everything is on the table. We can talk about everything. We're best friends. Talk about anything. Be vulnerable with me. Let me know what's going on. And sometimes it's really kind of using your partners the same way that you might use your girlfriends or your best friends, of having that sounding board of, fuck, I'm trying everything. Am I crazy here? Having that check-in of am I the asshole? Am I being an asshole? Because if I'm being an asshole, tell me, right? And like, these are people who love and care about you. So they should be the people who would tell you, yeah, you're being an
So it's like
asshole.
a case by case and depending
Right.
on your relationships with everybody. Yeah,
I mean,
got it.
Right.
Am I right, Vivica, that like there are certain folks who engage in polyamory and they talk to each other about, they talk to all of the partners about all of the partners. And then there
Yeah.
are some people who engage in polyamory who say, I don't want to hear about your other partners. Is
Yeah.
that true?
So I am the first category.
Mhm.
And then the second category is what we usually refer to as don't ask, don't tell. I personally don't like engaging in don't ask, don't tell. I recognize that there is some value to like having a little bit of a peace of a mind, especially if you feel somewhat insecure in your relationship, having that like, I just don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Right. And that comes with a lot of trust of saying, I know for a fact my partner is abiding by the rules. I know for a fact that my partner is being safe and being mindful of our like established boundaries. And keeping all of that in mind, I can then move forward and say, I don't need to ask any questions. The reason I personally don't like engaging in don't ask, don't tell is because I go to a lot of sex positive events and I run into a lot of my partners at those events with their other partners. And I really hate that awkward feeling of not being able to greet my partner the way that I would greet them normally, because their other partner doesn't necessarily know that I'm one of their partners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, that's just a preference for me that I don't like. But that isn't to say that it isn't working for other people, right? Like if that's your established boundary, if that's your, like how you set your thing up, cool. But whether or not you talk to your other partners about things going wrong, it's really just case by case, and whether or not you feel comfortable talking about that, and whether or not you feel like it might put a strain on the relationship that you're talking about or talking to.
You know, hearing you talk, I'm going to throw this out there. What I find really healthy is in setting these boundaries, and why I want to read the books, is I think it would be helpful in any relationship, you know, even with families, like when you're, the way you're describing how you're setting what your limits are and what you can listen to, what you can't, what you want to hear. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of power in that.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I love it. I love that the heart of my message is coming through.
Yes.
So if there's one fucking thing you take away from this conversation today, it is boundaries are fucking important. God damn it.
Yes.
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Yes.
Thank you.
They're empowering. They're empowering, and they're safe. And I think what I love about polyamory and what I'm learning is that is the foundation. If you're doing polyamory in a healthy way, you're setting boundaries, you're communicating effectively. You are from the beginning saying, I think we talked about this on our pre-call, Vivica, like you sit down with the person initially that you are maybe interested in dating, and you say to them, hey, I'm polyamorous. I don't know how you describe this, Vivica. Maybe you could give that example, because I thought that was really, yeah.
So I think in like our like pre-talk, I mentioned that like for me, a first date always kind of feels like a job interview, right? And I say that, and like I'm going to preface this by saying a job interview, when I'm talking about it, is an interview from both sides. The company, you are interviewing a potential new recruit, but that new recruit is also interviewing you to see if this is a company that is going to be a good fit for them overall, right? So it's an interview that goes both ways. So I'm prefacing the job interview analogy by saying, I'm saying that this goes both ways, right? Okay, so when I sit down on a first date, one of the first things I tell someone before we finish that date is, I am polyamorous, which means I have multiple other romantic relationships outside of you. And I am not breaking up with a single one of those partners for you.
Okay.
If you're okay with that, we can continue. If not, we can be friends and move on.
Interesting. That's awesome. You know what I was thinking when you were talking about even things in a monogamous relationship, you know, and you're talking about people's needs being met. Someone could say,
Damn it, technology.
and those conversations need to be had.
Okay.
You know?
We lost you. Someone could say, and then what did you say?
Oh, well, you could be saying, I need to go out of this relationship to get other things that that aren't getting met. And what I love about that idea is then you have everything on the table. I was also thinking how, you know, some people are really flirty. It's just their natural nature. It doesn't necessarily mean they're doing anything wrong, but the other person could feel, you know, not intimidated, but, you know, uncomfortable. And then that could be discussed, like where that other individual could be that way, but maybe not that way around, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, around their other partner. I mean, there's so many aspects of this that I see that, you know, that I can see in the very beginning of our talk, how you said people step out for these ridiculous reasons, you know, and it ends up being a big mess when a lot of this would have been resolved with the communication.
It's so funny that you say that, because as a polyamorous person, and this is like a running joke in the polyamorous community and really in the ethical non-monogamy community in general, is that when we're watching like I really cannot watch romantic comedies.
I can't.
And like romance movies make me fucking sick, mostly because the plot of most rom-coms would be solved with polyamory. Across the board. All the stupid little love triangle plots. Okay. And a love triangle. So what? Like polyamory, like plot twist. They were all polyamorous, happy ending. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that, like, one, society keeps shoving monogamy down our throats. So we have this idea that we have to make it work in monogamy or else, right? But if you actually just look at it and say, well, fuck, I have these needs. I want these needs to be met, and I've spent X amount of my life trying to get these needs met to no avail by one singular person. What happens if I try to get individual needs met by individual people? And you find that when you spread your needs out to multiple people, no one gets overwhelmed. You don't feel like a burden to any one person. You can feel however vulnerable you want to feel with any one person. So even though I personally don't advocate for it, it definitely helps with people with commitment issues, leaning into getting into a committed relationship, because you have that like out, if you will, and like you kind of have that like, well, I'm not technically committed, but I am, but I'm not, because I'm kind of single, but I'm not, because I'm always open to dating. So like, I don't have to feel like I'm like shut down to anything. I always joke about how even though I have been in a long-term relationship with my primary partner for 4.5, almost 5 years now, I operate like a single person. I live my life on a day-to-day basis almost like a single person. So in the before times, I'd go out to a bar and I'd be flirty, and I might sit at a bar and like see a hot person and be like, hey, can I buy you a drink? Like, can I like have a drink with you or whatever? And like just sit there and flirt with them. And then I'd go home and like tell my partner, oh my God, I met this hot person at the bar earlier. Like we exchanged numbers, but I'm hoping they call me, right? Like, so what? Like I was flirting with someone. I'm excited about flirting with someone, but that doesn't diminish the love and respect and care that I have for each one of my partners. You know what I mean? I have the bandwidth to say, I want to love multiple people. I have the ability to put my time, effort, energy, and focus on multiple people. So why run on dial-up when I have 5G?
So I want to touch on this because Vivica, when we talked about this before, I thought this was super, super interesting. I remember asking you the question about like, well, what about like the time? Like, isn't it really a lot of work to have one relationship? You know what I mean? Like, so like, do we really have time for this with considering our current society? Which links back again to a lot of what we talk about on Rethinking Humanity. Like, we got to change it because we don't have time to live and be, right? But when you speak to that, the whole idea, the question of like, but is this really feasible because of the time element?
Right. So one of the first things that I have to say, obviously, about that, and it is a huge joke, again, in the non-monogamous community, is that the hardest part of polyamory is synchronizing your Google calendars. And like, once you figure out how to synchronize your Google calendar, everything else runs a lot more smoothly. I am really fortunate because I live kind of that bohemian artist lifestyle. I have mostly been doing like gigs and like freelance work for so long that like I have a lot more random downtime and random free time available to me at odd moments that most other people might not. So I have a lot more free time available to me to dedicate to a relationship. And because of that, I have the ability to have more relationships. So I recognize that not everyone has that time frame. Not everyone has the ability to do that. But also, it's really about figuring out what you want to prioritize, right? So if you want to make time for a relationship, you will find the time for that relationship. If you can find time for an affair, you can find time for a whole healthy relationship where everyone's above board, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really just a matter of figuring out what scheduling situations works for you, finding partners that work within your schedule and that obviously meet your needs. And that in itself is already a fun challenge. But timing is really everything. And one of the best things that you can do is, even if you aren't sure that you want to open your relationships, or you want to open your relationships, but you're not sure if you have the time, for right now, in those downtime moments, look into the resources of ethical non-monogamy. Read The Ethical Slut, read More Than Two, read Insecure in Love, and get ready to be able to prioritize that time. Because once you have the resources and the knowledge and the background, and you know what needs you want met, you know what boundaries you're willing to set, what boundaries you're willing to be flexible on, and what you're not willing to be flexible on. Once you know that in your mind, you have that in your mind, everything else starts running a lot smoother. And it takes a lot less time to engage with someone, because you can sit down and say, oh, okay, well, here's what I'm looking for, and your resume doesn't quite fit. I would love for us to still be friends, but like right now, I don't have time to prioritize someone in my schedule who doesn't fit this, right? So it's...
Sorry to interrupt you. No, I just had a practical question for those. Okay, so you tell the story that you go out to a bar, you're flirting with someone, you come home, you tell your partner of long-term, will say, that you were out, it was fun, you were flirting with someone, maybe they'll call you. Let me ask you, does your partner, or any partner, I guess, obviously there's no jealousy issues with that. See, how does that play out? And does the partner think, you can't see the bubble around the head, ooh, is she going to fall for this person and then replace me? Or, I'm sure you guys have talked about all this, so I'm just curious how that plays out.
I'm so glad you asked this question. And this is one of the reasons why I absolutely recommend reading The Ethical Slut, reading Insecure in Love, especially for this particular question. Is Insecure in Love 100% answers this question. In order to get to the point where I can text my partner and say, oh my God, I just met this like hot person. Oh my God, we were flirting and it was so cute. We have already addressed our insecurities in our relationship. We've already addressed the insecurities that cause jealousy. I have sat with myself and I've had moments of jealousy. And I'm not going to tell you that like once you become polyamorous, jealousy like fucks out the window. Absolutely not. This is an ongoing process that I work on a daily basis. And like, even now, there are times in my relationship, like just last year, my primary partner and I, like, we were living together at the beginning of the quarantine for 3 months. And they had a another partner that they were seeing that was long distance, obviously in a different country, so not seeing face to face, not like spending physical time with, but I was still getting jealous of the amount of emotional vulnerability that they were getting that I wasn't receiving. So we had to sit down and have a conversation about where I felt like I wasn't being prioritized, or where I felt like my needs weren't getting met in that moment. And we were able to move past that and get through that. And I was able to voice, okay, what can I do to feel like my needs are being met? What can be done to feel like these needs are being met, right? So it's not that jealousy doesn't exist. It absolutely exists in non-monogamy. It absolutely exists in polyamory. It's just addressed in non-monogamy because it has to be. If you don't address the jealousy, all of your relationships will fail. And it's even more devastating to have 5 breakups at once than just one. But if you can have all 5 of those breakups be avoided by just addressing your insecurities and just addressing your jealousy, one like hard conversation with yourself and one awkward conversation with whichever partner or whichever partners are triggering this insecurity fixes everything, or at least fixes everything enough.
You know what I love about this? I just have to say one thing. It's so powerful is the fact that you are addressing this. So I think of a monogamous relationship when there are issues of jealousy or whatever, you know, the flirting. What does the person say to the other? Hey, I'm married to you. Like, get over it. Like, basically, we don't have to talk about it because I'm wearing.
Yep.
Oh no! Did we lose her again?
Freaking.
Say it again. You don't have to worry about this because I'm wearing a ring.
Yeah. And I was like, it's so that, like, you know, no communication. I married you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. Just because you're married, everyone sees this. And of course, like, you go into marriage of the death do you part, right? Oh, yeah. But like the reality of that situation is divorce is more common than now than it has been. And right now, divorce rates are actually dropping because the people who are getting married so intentionally, and they are getting married with the realization of this might not be forever, but I want this to try to be forever. And they're trying to make it work. And they have a lot more resources available to them to make this work than they did potentially a generation or so ago, right? But it's also just, it's weird because you want to say, oh, you know, these things don't happen. Jealousy doesn't happen. Fuck that. Like, you have to be real and you have to be like upfront because we all get jealous. We are all emotional creatures. We all get insecure.
Yes.
You know? And being able to be vulnerable with your partner and say, hey, I'm feeling really insecure about this thing right now. That should be what your partner is for. That level of vulnerability should be why you're dating them.
Yeah, and I think the emotional affairs, I think, are common now with the online more than the physical, because whatever, the physical is the physical, but the emotional thing is huge.
Right. Especially because a lot of people feel like they're not having their emotional needs validated. And in a lot of monogamous culture, especially like toxic monogamy culture, the kind of thing that you see like in the movies, the kind of thing that is pushed, especially in small towns and like in small communities of like, you know, the goal is to get married and have babies above all else. You gotta have them babies, right? And you can't have them out of wedlock because God's watching. So, you got to have those married babies, And so you have everyone in your community uplifting the idea of keeping a couple together for ideation of having babies from that couple but completely ignoring, is that couple actually happy together? Is that couple going to provide a happy, stable, healthy home environment for whatever child they bring into this world? Because if they are emotionally fucking distraught by the time they get pregnant, that's not going, a pregnancy isn't just magically gonna fucking fix it. Like, how many people have we seen get divorced while their kids are still in like school, right? How many people have we seen get divorced, or like how many people have we seen just walk out of a fucking relationship when the kid's not even 5 years old, right? So just because you have a kid doesn't mean it's going to fix the relationship. What fixes a relationship is communication and honesty, and just being upfront and vulnerable with your partner and saying, fuck, I'm not okay here. How can we fix this? Can we fix this, or does this need to end?
I would venture to say that a lot of divorces could be saved from happening if folks were more open to being polyamorous and solving the problem that way, that the home isn't shattered by cheating or,
infidelity of some sort. Because that emotional infidelity that Sonya mentioned, that's coming from not only your needs not being met, but feeling validated by someone other than your partner. And when you don't feel validated in your relationship, you are going to seek that validation out somewhere. We need validation as humans. We are social creatures. We need social validation. So you're going to seek it out one way or another. And if you feel like you're not being validated in your relationship, one of the first things you need to do is say, fuck, I need this validation. I need to explain to my partner very clearly and very openly and very honestly, this needs to be a priority to them, or it's going to destroy our relationship. Because if this validation is not being received, eventually it's going to eat at you, and you're going to start resenting your partner, and you're going to start looking for that validation elsewhere, and you're going to be even more resentful of your partner when you get that validation elsewhere.
Yeah, it's so true. I just love how how communication is the bedrock of this whole thing. It's incredible.
Yes, absolutely. And so communication and boundaries are really just all it fucking breaks down to. And that is something that translates to all relationships, whether it is a romantic relationship, a platonic relationship, a work relationship, even just a casual acquaintance. You have to have boundaries, and you have to have open communication with the people that you're dealing with, so that everyone can be on the same page, and so that everyone can work towards the same end goal together with informed consent.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're bringing this across the board to all relationships. So true. Yeah, that's what people need to hear. The boundaries and communication.
Yeah. So one other question I asked this in our initial chat. Is there a certain type of person that this works better for than others? I know, like, I definitely echo your sentiments of like whatever works for you. Nobody's poo-pooing on monogamy today.
Right.
We're like saying, if that's what you want and you're doing it because you want to and it makes you happy, great. Nobody's
absolutely.
right. So that being the case, putting us in a place of empowerment about being able to choose, what can you speak to a little bit of, like, what type of people does this work well for based on your experience? Maybe does it really work well for, and is that just a myth? Does it work well for everybody if they want it to?
So it really works well for anyone who feels like they would be unfulfilled in monogamy, or who feels like they would be uncomfortable being tied down to just one person. One of the biggest things that I had like commitment issues with was feeling tied and stuck with just one person, right? I'm a hedonist, and I'm also pansexual. So, hello.
Yeah. That's so perfect.
I know.
So for me, being monogamous makes no sense, because I would have to cut off a huge part of my sexuality alone just to feel like I'm abiding by the rules of a relationship. So I think that like someone who is bi or pansexual would probably benefit from this, but I don't think that just being bi or pansexual is default reason to get into non-monogamy. I think it really just boils down to, is this right for you? Only you would know. And I don't think that there's any particular group of people that this fits better than others. I'm not even sure if there is a group of people that monogamy fits better than others. Okay, well, ma'am, knocking the camera. So yeah, I really just think it's taking a moment to kind of do a little self-reflection and a little soul searching and say, am I happy and being fulfilled in my monogamous relationships? If not, do I feel like I would be fulfilled in non-monogamy? If so, let me take a look into it. Let me read a book. Let me see if like this might be a thing that I might.
Self-awareness, baby. That's the root of it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really just about figuring out what works best for you and how to best have your needs met and fulfilled. Because if that's monogamy, great. Absolutely find that one person for you and have a wonderful, happy, fulfilling relationship with that person with lots of healthy boundaries and lots of healthy communication.
Yes. That's what counts, really.
Yes.
Yeah. How many people, do you know any statistics about how many folks are engaging in ethical non-monogamy?
I don't know the statistics. I would say that ethical non-monogamy seems to be kind of on the rise because it's getting a lot more publicity in the media. You have movies and TV shows like She's All That by Spike Lee, which is about a Black queer polyamorous woman. I will say, as a Black queer polyamorous woman, she's a really bad example of polyamory in the show, but not in the movie. In the show, she acts without consent quite often, and she doesn't give her partners the ability to have informed consent about meeting each other. There's a lot of things. Not the greatest representation, but the fact that there is representation at all. We look at The Expanse, which is one of the hypest shows on TV right now, and they show that one of their main characters, their parents were polyamorous and had a polycule. They show that like polyamory happens in the belt. They show polyamory as being a very valid and viable relationship choice that no one questions and no one sees as weird or strange or out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. And having that visibility of saying, oh yeah, this is an option for people and it's just as viable and it's just as real and just as ethical as monogamy, if not more so, because you're choosing this and you are walking into this with a clear mind and you are making a very conscious decision to engage in ethical non-monogamy. Whereas because monogamy itself is a societal default, you aren't really making a conscious choice so much as you're just kind of doing what you're told.
Yeah, I love the fact you use the words societal default.
Yeah.
Because we are looking at rethinking society, rethinking humanity. And so that's part of that process. So I would say, based on what I've heard from you today, is that people should start with the books, like The Ethical Slut. What was the other one? Can you repeat those?
Yeah, so The Ethical Slut, More Than Two, and Insecure in Love.
Yeah, 3 good titles to start with on their journey. And Lacey brought up, what was yours, Lacey?
Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan.
Okay, so we've got 4 good titles out there.
There you go.
I have learned so much, in fact, because I'm a total book reader. I'm going to get those books.
Yes, and obviously, feel free to reach out to me and we can have like a little side book club about it because we just ordered all of these books for the Fun Time Program Studios.
Wow.
So John and I are going to be reading these books in the background. I've already read The Ethical Slut, but I haven't read More Than Two. but a ton of my friends and a lot of my sex positive and polyamorous friends have all recommended all of these books over and over and over and over again. And it has just been pounded into me that like these are the gold standard books if you're looking to explore ethical non-monogamy.
Cool. Tell us again where everybody can find you if they want to follow you and follow the program.
Yes. So if you want to check out the Funtime program, we are on all social media at the Funtime program, or I'm sorry, at Funtime program. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Funtime program. We also have a website, funtimeprogram.com, and you can find links to all of our social media as well as any podcast app. So you can find us on any and all podcast apps. Wherever you listen, you can find us. You can also find us on YouTube, where we do a video format of all of our episodes. We also do clips, like short clips of all of our episodes on our YouTube as well. If you want to follow me personally on Instagram, I'm at Goddess of Electricity. Yes. I'm very happy to talk about electricity on a whole different day. And we just did a whole episode on our podcast that's going to be coming out in a day or two, talking with another fellow podcaster from the Sex and Sanity podcast. Yeah, she's from Ghana. And so we were just talking about all kinds of fun sex things, including electricity, where I give a full electro demo. So that's going to be really fun.
Nice. Nice.
On Twitter, you can find me at Goddess Trivy. So that's Goddess, T-R-I-V as in Victor. So try like 3, V. If you want to Venmo me, same, at Goddess Trivy.
We could do that, Sonya. Why don't we do that?
We gotta do that.
Yeah.
And if you want to follow me on Twitch, I'm also a gamer, #gamer girl.
Yes.
But you can find me twitch.tv /Vivica_Volt. So if you want to watch me play some really popular games kind of badly, come through.
Nice. Very good. Well, this has been amazing and really enlightening. I hope that everybody that's listening has enjoyed it. And we appreciate you, Vivica, and happy Valentine's Day. We hope you have
You too. I appreciate you guys as well. Obviously, we love your podcast. I can't wait to have you guys back on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, for sure. We will we'll definitely be in touch soon, and we hope all of you out there have a great day. Yes.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, thanks for watching.